13 Reasons Why really does connect with reality. As I watched 13 Reasons Why episodes 5, 6, 7, I realized that there was a connection between Hannah Baker, the main character from the show, and Richard Pryor, who was a real-life person. It was then, as I watched those episodes, when I realized, Richard Pryor, holy cow, this man actually can or does relate to Hannah Baker because, one, he had very similar depression cases. 2, he did contemplate suicide. 3, he saw similar traumatic events, similar to what Hannah saw in the show. So this is the t-shirt I was wearing, or that I am wearing in the video. And as you can see from the picture, this is a collage I made of both Richard Pryor and Hannah Baker. For those who are familiar with 13 Reasons Why, you know who Hannah Baker is. And for those who are probably new to Richard Pryor, this is him. That's Richard Pryor. People have seen the shirt, and they've been asking me questions on, what was their connection? How did you discover a relatable... How did you find out that Richard Pryor was actually quite relatable to Hannah Baker? Well, I'll show you in this video. Yes, I do know that Richard Pryor, for quite a long time in his life, did contemplate suicide, similar to what Hannah did in the show. But besides contemplating suicide, there was a few other things that Richard went through, and they were similar to what Hannah went through. For instance, as a kid, Richard was raised in his grandmother's brothel. Now, with that said, he must have seen or witnessed similar traumatic attacks, similar to what Hannah saw. Like in that episode when she went to a summer party. For those who have seen 13 Reasons Why, you know exactly the scene I'm talking about. Both Richard Pryor and Hannah Baker saw extremely traumatic things in their lives, and both must have been extremely emotionally scarred. Not to mention, Richard was bothered by a lot of people when he was raised in an era where Afro-Americans were segregated or discriminated. And Hannah was in some ways discriminated as well. Discriminated from her friends Alex and Jessica, inappropriately touched by Marcus. In general, she was abused and bullied. And Richard was also abused and bullied as a kid. That's how I kind of discovered the connection between the two people. The bullying, the traumatic attacks that they witnessed, the contemplation of suicide, the attempts, the acts, and discrimination. All of those are just close to what these two people suffered. I shared this discovery with a few people who saw me wearing the shirt. I even shared it with some people on the internet. And for those who were familiar with Richard Pryor, said on the internet, "I never thought of that, but you might be right."